Is the Little Mermaid a person or is it a fish? Or is it therianthrope, which means half fish and half human? Mermaid stories are being told regardless of east or west. In Andersen's fairy tale The Little Mermaid, the mermaid is depicted as a beautiful woman. And the mermaid story also appears in Chinese folktale. According to a Chinese legend, when the mermaid shed tears, they become a pearl. Eastern and Western mermaids are usually described as mysterious beings. But what about Korea? There is a mermaid story in Korea too. This is Rebecca from Orin, Korea, who tells you everything about Korea. Listening, Disney is making The Little Mermaid live. In that sense, I'm going to talk about the Korean mermaid today. Today's story is based on literature written in the early 15th century in Korea. Before I talk about the mermaid in Korean folktale, let me tell you about Disney's Little Mermaid. I'm sure you'll remember Disney's Little Mermaid OST Under the Sea. It's a very famous movie. With the song of Under the Sea, many sea animals appear in the movie. There are crayfish, hippocampus fish, octopus, and Little Mermaid. Imagine the scene in the animation. The mermaid princess Ariel fell in love with Eric, the prince on Earth. She wants to leave the sea for a happy life with him. At that time, the crayfish sings about the beauty of the sea and tells the Little Mermaid not to leave the sea. Let's take a closer look at the lyrics of Under the Sea.
The fish on the land ain't happy. They sad 'cause they in the bowl. One day, when the boss get hungry, guess who going be on the plate?
Surprisingly, Little Mermaid in Korean folktale in the past were in this situation in the lyrics. In general, mermaids in the story of Little Mermaid are special and mysterious unlike other fish. By the way, a mermaid story in Korea is quite different from the mermaid story in a fairy tale and in a Chinese folktale. What kind of beings was a Little Mermaid in a Korean folktale? What do the fish, crayfish, octopus, and mermaid that appear in the Under the Sea video have in common? The answer is seafood. Again, in a Korean folktale, it was no more or less than just seafood. That's one you are eating every day. That's right, it's fried, steamed, and grilled every day. Seafood. Let's start talking about Korean mermaid. Korea's representative mermaid story is contained in a book called Eoyadam in the early 15th century. The mermaid in this book is not like the mermaid in Little Mermaid. According to Eoyadam, its beard was yellow, black hairs were covered the forehead, and the body was pale red or white. This description is not the appearance of the mermaid we commonly recognize, but according to the story, the mermaid face was beautiful and cute. What on earth were they? It's very strange and weird. However, there is one thing that certainly be mentioned in the story. It is mermaid oil is much better than whale oil. On second thought, it can be interpreted that people at that time saw the mermaid as a type of seafood, not a mysterious being. Let's take a look at mermaid story. A fisherman living on the beach went fishing and caught 6 mermaids. This fisherman came back with a happy heart. This fisherman thinks,
I'm so lucky. When I turn the mermaids into oil, I'll hit pay dirt.
and last, the fisherman stabbed 2 mermaids to death with a spear, and the moment he's about to try to squeeze oil, a local official, Kim Dam-young, passes through the village and sees 4 remaining mermaids. In the eyes of local government official Kim Dam-young, the mermaid looks so pitiful not only because they look so similar to human, but also because they are really cute, really beautiful, and really childlike. So Kim Nam-young tells the fisherman to release the mermaid. However, the fisherman disapproved of Kim Nam-young's order. That's why he said this.
Mermaid oil is very good for the body, and it never spoils itself. It's the best specialty. It is unparalleled compared to whale oil that goes bad and changes with age. So please cancel the order to release the mermaid.
Then the local official Kim Dam-young becomes angry and forcibly takes away the fur mermaid caught by the fisherman, and he released the fur mermaid into the sea. It was said that the mermaids swim like turtles. Korean mermaid stories appear not only in Ouyadam but also in other literature. There are also mermaid stories in a book called Gyeongmulseol by Joseon philosopher Lee Baek-gyu and a book called Baegunpil written by Eo. The stories of a mermaid in Korea are quite similar. The mermaid stories in Baegunpil also has a similar plot. A tourist travels near the beach in Hwanghae-do, Korea, and finds an animal cage in an empty house. In it, he sees something trapped in a cage that looks like a woman and a child. The mermaids don't seem to be able to speak, but they look really cute and beautiful. So he talked to them and built a rapport with them. The next day, the owner comes back into the house. The owner of the house looks at the traveler pitifully and says this.
What are you doing? It's not a person, it's a mermaid. It's not something to understand what you are saying. It's just a fish. Today, I plan to kill them. I will eat their flesh as side dishes, then squeeze oil to sell in the market. Now that you're here, just wait a moment until I boil one of them, and let's eat together.
The traveler is startled and persuades the landlord not to do that. After repeatedly persuading him, the mermaids are finally released. The mermaid returned to the sea and looked back at the tourist 3 times in gratitude. How is the story of mermaid in Korea? In the past, did Koreans consider mermaid simply seafood? No, it's a story about the boundary between humans and animals. The Little Mermaid in the West is a mysterious underwater creature. The boundary between animals and humans is ambiguous. Mermaids speak human languages, but they are fish in the lower half of the body. It's a being of human and at the same time fish. But in Korea, the mermaid is clearly recognized as an animal, and all the main characters in the story try to communicate with the mermaid who are recognized as animal. The story of the collapse of the boundary between animals and humans appears in every mermaid story in Korea. In other words, in a Korean folktale, the main message of mermaid story is not about treating animals as animals, but about the perspective of how should animals be viewed if they interact with people. How was the story of a Korean mermaid that communicates with the people at the boundary between animals and humans? The story is not just about mermaid. If you love animal, it's about your pet dog or pet cat. That's all for today's Korean story. Find out everything about Korea with Orin Korea. I'm Rebecca, a real Korean woman who loves animals. Subscription and alarm settings are love. Please press like as well.